Hello. Welcome everybody to the 11th episode of The Hole in the World, an actual play of the Invisible Sun RPG created by Monty Cook Games. I, as always, am your GM, Zach, otherwise known as Great Zamino. To the right of me on screen playing Gabrielle.
Hello, let's remember how to do this. I'm Marcy, Experimental Madness, playing Gabrielle Glinsky, your iconoclastic, ardent apostate who hosts a choir. Figure I'd do the whole title because it's been a while.
And to the right of her playing Twig.
Oh fuck! Of course it's me already. It is I, Hopper, playing your resident hangry apostate who eats knowledge. I think I'm a gallant. Pretty sure there's words. I wasn't prepared. To be fair,
I try to memorize it.
How dare you, sir?
I only have my character sheet right here. It's just very confusing.
It's okay, you ate it all, so I suppose that's...
It's all up here, and by up here I mean Zach remembers.
Don't put this on me. And below our beloved Twig is our beloved Kyrrie, played by...
Hi everybody, I'm Marissa, also known as Critical Kitten. I play Curiel von Hollingsworth, the first assistant librarian of the Order of the Bants. I am an aromatic stoic who understands the words. I'm a linguistic scholar, creator of the Metalex engine, mother of grimoires, and perpetually irascible when it comes to logivores, like Twig.
You know, I it's funny. I feel like that nom de guerre gets longer each episode.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
You know, we're gonna need a logivore to eat some of that title.
Mother of grimoires, I see you.
Yeah. Oh yes. Figured why not?
And finally, to Kyrie's left is Maurice, played by...
Hey, I'm Bill. I'm playing Maurice Webb, a stalwart empath of the Order of Weavers who turns tales into reality. I think I still have a job at the Hendas Acclimation Center. I haven't been there in a couple days. We'll see how that goes.
Guess you're gonna have to find that out, huh?
Guess I'll have to find out.
Your coworker doesn't remember that assault, if that helps.
I'm a no call no show. I mean, what's the Saturnine policy here?
Oh well, you know.
You don't have it memorized?
I think it was a little bit more robust before the war. Also, I have a feeling a friend of yours might be calling in to cover for you. And so I think that we should start with a little bit of a recap with what happened last week, because unfortunately we had some technical issues. As is always the case when I add any bit of new device, it kind of borks my sound settings. So unfortunately, we ended up losing the player audio. You can hear me talking into the middle of space, no problem. But we lost a lot of the player audio for last episode. But what happened was this. You guys started in the secret bar in Lower Taberswood. You were being accompanied by Basil Fictorum, who is apparently, according to whatever your understanding, seems to be a living fictional character that has somehow made it into Saturnine, into the actuality from the deeps of sleep and the blue and from fiction itself. You also found out that Basil is searching for his creator. And in addition to that, you guys managed to get onto a golden carriage that was carried by multiple dozens of human feet, which is just such a great image that I'm glad stayed with you guys. But you were also accompanied by two friends of Basil. I say friends loosely because one was Avelia, who is apparently the daughter of the mob boss that you guys are going to see, One King 9, and Patral, who is the cavale of this mob boss as well. So a bunch of dangerous people picked you up like it was no big thing, and you guys started on the trip out of Saturnine, which for the first was probably one of the first times you guys have actually left Saturnine for any place since you came back to the actuality. And, you know, it wouldn't be a momentous, eventful trip if you weren't waylaid by highwaymen, literal highwaymen made out of the road. And after some quick thinking by Kyrrie, some very feral attacks by Gabrielle, who put herself into a feral state with her spell, The Eyes of Maurice, you were able to basically kind of hulk out, but at the cost of kind of your agency. You ended up going feral, you attacked Patrol, or were about to, until Basil kind of drew your attention away. And then on top of that, you know, Avelia was trying her best to kind of help protect Basil and got very upset when he ended up being attacked. So all of this happened. You managed to pretty much just reduce to rubble the highwaymen on your way to what was apparently an Ujjain monastery, a kind of forgotten small church outside of Satyrine, a few miles south. You guys managed to see kind of a few interesting sights along the way, a giant willow tree apparently off in the distance. There was kind of this strange weather and grassland. It was this wide expanse that seemed a little bit more vital and yet at the same time a little bit more, shall we say, intimidating than Satyrine proper. And you made your way into this monastery, which seemed to be populated with these thought form monks that were tending to all these votive candles floating throughout the monastery. And one such monk was accosted by Basil Fictorum and Patrol, and this monk pulled a singular candle from out of the thousands of them in this monastery, and intoning an incantation, Basil was able to use this and essentially open a rift through reality itself, and you found yourself in front of a candle flame fortress that is apparently the home of the mob boss King 9. And not only that, you did this all while kind of carrying an unconscious Gabrielle into this large throne room. This one kind of holographic man or entity was addressing this imposing figure sitting on a throne of bone and candle flame. And just kind of as intimidating and as kind of imposing as this person is, it's kind of a terrifying sight, but at the same time, he is the person you have come to see. And right in that moment was the moment when Gabrielle managed to return to consciousness. And so we are going to start in media res, in front of the throne of the Satyrinian mod boss, King 9, who's looking at you with these smoldering coals of eyes, this kind of rippling muscular frame hulking on, sitting atop this pile of bones and fire.
You have come to my domain. Little fiction.
And it's right about that point where this set of smoldering eyes kind of flicks to the side very quickly behind Basil, who is trying to stammer out a thought, kind of like an explanation, when all of a sudden Avelia is in the corner of his vision. And before we kind of gauge his reaction, we're going to turn a card on the Path of Suns. Okay.
Has it done it again?
It has done it again. The card is the Monarch. Authority, judgment, the land, the world is the meaning.
Jesus Christ.
It is the sovereign of notions, cats, clocks, and wind.
Oh, no, that's me.
So here's the thing is, because it's your sovereign card, all of your actions and all of your spells get +2 to their level right now.
Wait,
Oh snap!
Yeah.
seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's your sovereign is the card that is kind of like the major arcana for you. So what this means is the ruler, the authority, the sovereign, the monarch stands above all and passes judgment. Their commands must be obeyed because there is no other choice. The monarch isn't the ruler of the world, they are the world. They represent reality itself. They claim authority over you because you are a small part of them. You can do no more refuse than your little finger can refuse to move as directed by your mind. You are gear that turns in a vast machine, and the monarch is the machine. So
So that was +2 on spells, just spells, or
spells and actions, anything you undertake. So an NPC passes judgment upon the PC unfavorably. An NPC ally is wanted by the authorities. Okay, this is the final tagline. My words shall dictate your actions regardless of the choices you make. All right. Dislike.
Wow.
Hard
Normally
dislike.
I would too, but I'm gonna.
Hard
This,
nope.
that's a nice advantage
So
when it works.
what this looks like, and let's get some good music for this too. Actually, no. Disciples of Steel. That's what we want. So he's staring at Basil, waiting expectantly, when all of a sudden his eyes flick to Avelia. And Avelia seems to kind of like almost try to nonchalantly walk into the throne room, where you've seen all of these kind of strange figures with this character while he kind of, holds court. And he looks at her and says,
Ah, daughter. You have returned, I see.
and she composes herself. Father, yes, I went to see the
I know what you were doing. You left without my permission. To see this little half-man, half-concept. Does my authority mean nothing to you?
and she is kind of like, you have the feeling that she has seen her father do some very terrible things to people as she kind of stands still. But again, she kind of summons up this almost kind of aristocratic bearing. And she says, well, how will I learn to succeed you if I am to stay cooped up in this fishbowl? And he kind of inclines his head at her and says,
I expect you to learn from my example, and when you are ready to succeed me, you will depose me through your cunning and your wits, through your patience that's sharp like a knife. But no sooner than that.
and Basil attempts to interrupt.
Did I say you could speak yet, little fiction, as I address my daughter?
And Basil falls silent. And there's this chill in front of this throne of flame. And finally his eyes return to all of you.
And so what have you brought me, little fiction, besides revelations of my daughter's impudence?
And Cavail, Patral the Cavail, steps forward and begins whispering in King Nine's ear. One boot atop this pile of bones. And those smoldering coal eyes narrow. And Finally.
Well, my time is precious. Speak up.
What do you do?
Maurice, who was kind of positioning himself in front of Gabrielle, takes his hat in his hand and says, "Sir, we are looking for a shelter. We need a place to lie low and to think, and your protection would be greatly appreciated. Thank you."
And at which point Basil does kind of find his voice again. If it would please, my liege, there is good reason why these people have joined us. And King Nine inclines his head, waiting patiently. These are the people I spoke of, and I am calling in a favor.
You put my daughter in danger. I'd say that you are asking me a favor.
And at which point Avelia stands in front of Basil and just says, "He has done no such thing. I went of my own volition. I chose him. I chose to be with him, to protect him for your interests." And he kind of weighs her words.
Very well. It sounds as though you ask an additional boon, then.
And Basil kind of quietly nods. Anybody at this point, by the way, can make an interaction check if you'd like.
I'll make one.
If I had a Bene in that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't have to have a Bene to roll.
Yeah.
Just thought it'd be good.
Yeah, just
I
give me...
get a +2.
Yes, you do. How'd you do?
Maurice rolled an 8.
Crit.
Nice. Oh, not
9.
crit. Not... Wait, you critted?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so an 11 and an 8. All right. Okay, so I think that I think that you guys have, like, what are you trying to, who are you paying the most attention to, each of you?
Maurice is paying attention to King Nine.
Yeah. Okay. And what are you paying attention to, Gabrielle?
Oh, I was mostly trying to suss out this weird father-daughter interaction. Just like, does she not like the idea of being a future mob boss? Because I reflect on the fact that he had said something about fully anticipates her trying to, like, basically usurp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, essentially, I will tell you this, with the crit, you very clearly read her as plain as day. She is trying to make the best of a very perilous situation, which you can understand. Like, you realize that she is not afraid of her father. She is very much afraid for you and for Basil. She kind of seems kind of secure, but she's also understands that she's kind of walking a fine edge between kind of antagonizing her father to the point where he does something to kind of teach her a lesson. And you can tell she's not comfortable, but she's done this, it feels like, dozens of times. And not only that, I would say, Maurice, as you are paying attention to King Nine, I think that there's this flicker of recognition that King Nine notices that you are noticing him. It's kind of similar to what Basil did, where he kind of was watching how you were going to react. But this is a monarch. This is an authority who understands that you are basically he's almost performing for an audience. You realize that the gallery in front of his throne is filled with all these kind of odd creatures and figures, and some of them very clearly angels and demons, some of them other stranger entities. Eldebrin, Lacune, they all seem to be there. And they're watching, and you realize that he's debating internally whether or not to make an example. And in order to make that choice, I'm going to pull another card. Okay. I think you guys lucked out. The Questing Knight, an apprentice of the Vision, Swans, Blades, and Water. So, justice, journey, determination, achieving goals. The apprentice of the Visions family, the Questing Knight is a stalwart and focused individual seeking justice, but over the long term. The quest is long and hard. Success, however, comes to the persistent and the determined. And I think at that moment, King Nine decides that he has made his point and looks back at you, Maurice, and says,
Well, I do suppose I owe you a boon. Not only on Basil's behalf, but also on the behalf of my daughter. And you seek shelter?
If you would be so kind, sir.
I think Gav sort of regains their breath at this moment and is watching this interaction and just sort of looks up and like, shelter was not part of it. It was half of it, but it wasn't all of the reasons why we would be coming specifically to King Nine. Did you lay me down on the floor?
No, I sat you up, so I helped you
I'm
up.
Sitting up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'll stand up. Say shelter wasn't all that we wanted from you.
And Maurice quickly looks back at Gav and says, "Of course, there is much to discuss. Perhaps later, at another time, another setting."
Sooner rather than later, I think would be preferable for everybody.
Gav!
At this point, so Kyrrie, while all this has been going on, Kyrrie has been reading a book, in fact, in the back. She's dealt with a lot of powerful figures before, and one of the biggest mistakes in her view that you could make when confronting a powerful figure is to go in already having been beaten, and to show them that your attention is something that they've come to expect and are intrinsically worthy of. So at this point in the conversation, I think Kyrrie snaps the book shut and looks up at King Nine and goes, "Do you have a library?"
That's actually a very interesting question.
I have all manner of appointments here in my manor, little book mage.
Would it be possible that you would grant us access?
Is that a boon you require?
It's a question. A boon is a matter of debate, but it's a question I'm asking.
Maurice is just fidgeting, kind of twirling his hat in his hands, crunching it up.
Why don't we discuss this following hospitality? You are, after all, visitors here.
Quite.
One might say guests.
One might say guests.
I'd prefer guest than what I think is the other obvious answer rolling around in your head.
Well, as we are guests, King Nine, would you be able to tell us where we are? You have a very interesting manner of getting to this manor, as you say.
Yes.
That candle trick, I must say, was quite impressive.
A little bit of elementary magic. A little bit of secrets. My power.
Secrets never hurt.
Yes.
Secrets
don't.
never hurt anyone. Or
What a naive impression.
depends
Secrets
on how much
never hurt
power you
anyone.
give them.
I would like you actually, Gavriel,
Yes.
I'd like you to make an intellect roll.
Oh, all right. And I know we already drew another card, so that probably it's negated now.
No, yeah, you know what? I'm actually gonna, because you didn't get a chance. Well, I think
I did use it
you
with the
did use it for the
interaction
crit, for the
Yeah.
crit, which was great. Yeah, I think for the intellect you're not gonna have the bonus.
Got it.
Okay. This is gonna be pretty simple though.
That's gonna be an 8 on the dice. I don't know what the venture was.
Okay, so that's perfect because I think we were going for a 5.
Great.
So one of the things you realize why he is having kind of like this momentary kind of smirk on his face is that there is rumors within the underworld around the people that you've trafficked, that with whom you've trafficked, that you understand one of the reasons that King Nine is so deadly and so like very cautiously regarded is the fact that basically he has what are called the 7 deadly questions, which are, if you ask someone one of these questions and if they either respond incorrectly or they respond with an answer that is not true, it means instant death. So there's just kind of like this smirking knowledge behind that kind of estimation of secrets and why it's naive.
Maurice, at this point, would like to steal glances at all the other people in the court to see where their attention is. Are they looking at Gav? Are they looking at Kyrrie? Are they looking at Twig? Are they looking at King Nine?
Make a perception roll.
I'm gonna spend a beanie.
But you're gonna use a beanie? Be careful, if you're gonna get a beanie, you need a little propeller on top.
I got a 1 on the die,
Okay.
which is a total of 2.
I think with a 2, you are very much you are so aware of how, you know, you are so self-conscious right now that I think that you are so intimidated by what's going on that it is hard to think of anything else. I don't think you kind of get I think all of your focus is on King Nine at this point. And I think the figure is so imposing that you believe that all of the focus of the court is on the king right now.
What is his cavale up to?
I think that there's kind of like this kind of, well, the face of the hawk is looking at you, and Cavale Patrol is just kind of like looking over all of you, and he will spend a little bit of time looking directly at you, Twig. Just kind of like a moment, like it seems to be watching you for a moment longer than you're comfortable with. And that seems to be
any amount of time is a moment longer than I'm comfortable with.
And not only that, it seems to be on purpose.
Of course, he's a fucking. I'm just gonna keep an eyeball on Patrol and what he's up to.
Okay. So, yeah, I think going back to kind of this discussion with Kyrrie, he seems to make an estimation, and he says,
We will discuss the services and the facilities that are available to you, my dear book mage, when introductions have been made and hospitality has been received, both by the guest and the receiver. Or the host, I should say.
Kyrrie nods her head, slightly inclines, and as she is still wearing a 1930s gown, curtsies politely and knows when it's proper to follow decorum.
And who do I have the pleasure of addressing?
My name is Kyrrie von Hollingsworth. I'm a first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance at the University in Fartown.
Ah. And you?
Maurice Webb. I work for the Andasa Acclimation Center.
And his coal eyes flicker. This momentary kind of bit of recognition.
Ah, a weaver. Such a pleasure to see a weaver. It's been a while since I've played the finest game.
You mean the spider's chest?
Yes.
And Maurice forgets where he is for a moment and says, "Oh, I haven't played in a long time."
Interesting.
And then immediately remembers where he is. Shit.
And you, young apostate with the feathers.
Oh, I have a name. I'm just debating if you're one of those people that when I give it to them, they take it. It's hard to get a read on somebody with that much power and with some legendary skills that I've heard rumors of. So yes, I have a name, and if they want to call me an apostate, that's also true.
You only give me power over your name if you give me a true name. You know this. A secret name.
Well, fat chance of me remembering that, so you can have the name that they call me. In that case, it's Gabriel Glinsky.
Interesting.
Don't do anything weird with it.
And that laughter kind of echoes, and you hear some of the people in the court kind of titter along with it. And then you hear him sneer.
And you, apostate. What is your association with the rest of this guests?
Oh, just drinking buddies.
Oh, I think I like you.
And Patral kind of like glances back and then glances back at you. And by the way, Basil Fictorum is sweating bullets.
All right.
Can I take some of those bullets?
Oh, dum-dums.
Into death.
How is Patrol reacting exactly?
I think that you get the idea that Patral knows better than to question anything that that King Nine is doing.
Did he look surprised or shocked or displeased or like any specific brand of...
Make an interaction roll. I'm gonna say your difficulty is 7.
I have a, I'll use a Bene for that.
Excellent.
Then throw my fucking dice into the abyss. Ooh, that's a 7.
Excellent. All right.
On the dice.
Awesome. All right. So mark your banner off, and you get the idea. His eyes seem to dilate a little bit. Those giant hawk eyes dilate as King Nine laughs. And immediately you get the idea that I think that, that Patral is a little bit surprised. I think that after you get the feeling that he was kind of confident that you probably might not be standing where you are after his little whisper session. Like, I think there is a little bit of like chagrin.
I love it when a petty bitch gets their comeuppance.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I think that At this point, like the rest of the court, the tittering has stopped. Everybody is kind of still watching King Nine expectantly. And finally,
Patrol my cavale, would you be so kind as to escort my guests to their rooms? Basil to his usual quarters, if you will.
and Patrol kind of begrudgingly with that roll. I will do so, my king.
Good. But, Basil, you will stay with me momentarily. Tarry a little longer. I do have some questions.
And Basil just and stays put. And Patrol begins moving to the side of the throne. And behind you is this kind of like long, kind of like stone castle keep. And as they are moving, as Patrol is moving to the behind the throne, you see again an aperture seem to open in the space around the air through candle flame. And you hear Patrol saying, "No, this way."
Maurice gestures for everyone else to go ahead, and he'll bring up the rear.
Okay. What do you guys do?
I got my hand on my gun.
Well, mine is strapped to my back, so I'm just making a note of the route that we're taking.
Excellent. Okay. So as you guys are beginning to move, you go through kind of the back, and you're walking out of the keep proper, kind of like this big receiving area. Actually, anybody can make a perception check as you're kind of moving through this crowd in the galley.
What's the venture?
I'm gonna say you're gonna get something at 5 or above.
7.
Yeah.
It'll be a 5.
That'll be a 5.
Awesome. Anybody? How did Kyrrie and Maurice do?
I got a 7.
3.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, Maurice, you're kind of staying behind very purposefully. Yeah, I think you're kind of like your intention is on that.
Basically, I want to make sure I could see if Twig or anyone else was about to start some shit and stop it.
Yeah. Okay. So Kyrrie,
Start some shit. Surely not.
actually, so
Never done that.
I like how it's Twig or someone, like there aren't two apostates.
Like, yeah.
So-
honestly,
Someone.
honestly, y'all have been on your worst behavior today.
So, Gabrielle, as you are kind of making your way out, you do notice this kind of figure, this 8-foot tall figure with this kind of androgynous figure with light, feathery white wings, like very prototypical angel. At which point you hear Athariel from inside of you say,
Of angel, but they only come when a message needs to be delivered.
and
Couldn't have just been delivering a message?
I do not know what the denizens of the Silver City might have to do with this man.
she says it very derisively in her head when she speaks of King Nine.
Oh, touchy. Looks like things aren't always so pure in the sacred Silver City. This is a mental conversation, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this is all happening, you know,
Yeah.
in between the ears. And I think that, yeah, I think there's a little bit of a hush there. And you can, it's almost like you can feel her cogitating within you.
I find the notion that angels deal with mobsters to be excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. So the next thing I think, Twig, you notice is there is the same way you have seen a an angel, Gabrielle, you, Twig, see a demon who is watching you with very keen interest. Large horns out of what appears to be this kind of like purple, violet, deep, midnight, dark, kind of almost cloud-like head that seems to be sticking out of a very nicely done pair, black on black tails, bow tie, shirt, with a kind of violet cummerbund to match, like deep violet, and has these bare, like deep midnight skinned hands and feet that are bare, that have these kind of thick claws at the end of them, and you see him watching all of you with great interest.
Just to sup, kind of that head gesture.
You notice he seems to turn his hand, and in it appears a flute of what looks to be blood red champagne, and kind of raises his glass to you, and you kind of see these large yellow eyes kind of circling around the smoke of the head, and they kind of turn back as you're leaving. Finally,
before that, I would like to reach into my vest and pull out a flask, flip the top, and just kind of.
Excellent. I think that the creature, this demon, kind of seems to. It doesn't really have a mouth, so you can't really see it, but you kind of feel like it's smiling, kind of like there's an indentation in the smoke of its head.
Excellent.
All right. So, finally, Kyrrie, as you're kind of walking through, I think your gaze kind of falls on Avelia. And Avelia has moved to the side of Basil, and she seems to kind of be touching the small of his back comfortingly. Basil is standing straight still, and she kind of breaks away from him to, take a part near her, like a small chair near her father's side. But as she kind of moves to this, the side of her father's throne, she does kind of make eye contact with you. And then it's a momentary glance. And then finally she returns to her attention to both Basil and her father and the rest of the court.
Do I get a sense of, or an impression of feeling from the eye contact?
Yeah,
or is it too brief?
I think it's a very brief contact, but at the same time, I think it's very clear. It's not like a cry for help. It's not even like it seems to. It's almost kind of like it's like a kindred spirit type connection,
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the idea of like you might understand this.
Yeah. Kyrrie's gonna smile a little, just like a half smile, and then walk through.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so you are making your way, and Maurice, I think you said you had a 3 on that perception?
Yep.
Okay, I think, again, you're kind of like hanging back. Your focus is on your compatriots. You are making sure that they are not about to do anything stupid. And they do kind of finally get through the aperture, at which point you're kind of like hanging back a little bit, and then you've realized it's kind of safe to go. Do you continue to follow them?
I do.
Okay. So you step through. And you guys are following Patrol. He is walking through this expansive manor. And there's something very interesting that you begin to notice along all of the walls. There seems to be like a faint glow within this kind of very rough-hewn stone that make up the keep. And there's candles everywhere, and some of it you realize the light that is effulging from this kind of like cut shapes within the stone is actually, it's like runic symbols, or not like runes, they're like basically circles. And I think that Kyrrie, the very first thing that you realize is these, having done a great deal of study of the schools of magic within Satyrine, you realize that these are goetic circles of binding and colloquy, which is what we call the process of when a goetic makes or beseeches service from a demon, an angel, or another entity. And you realize this is kind of conforms to your knowledge of King Nine, who, before he became this powerful mob boss, was a very well-respected and powerful goetic in his own right. So, yeah, these are just kind of like, you see these shapes kind of effulging with that same kind of similar candle flame glow from the rough-hewn stone. And you see there are all these different passages that all seem to lead down. Again, you guys can make a perception check if you'd like to kind of see where you're headed.
Ooh, 2.
Okay.
Not so good that time.
Yeah.
3.
It's another 5.
All right.
9.
9. Okay.
Hey.
I think that with the folks that got the 3, I think that you guys are just kind of, this is all very alien and new to you. I think you're kind of like taken in by like a little bit of like the runic circles or the kind of like binding circles that are hewn in the stone. You kind of like, your eyes get caught by the patterns. I think Gabrielle, you're trying to kind of like recover from your kind of daze that you were in and kind of your unconsciousness. And finally, I think that Maurice, as you're kind of walking, and actually let's say with Kyrrie first. Kyrrie, as you're walking, you see kind of like a flash out of the corner of your eye through what seems to be kind of like a grand arch. And this arch is very similar to the throne in that it is composed of bone, but at the top, the center of the arch, seems to be this large mammalian skull with a singular kind of eye hole in the center. And large tusks that like kind of seem to kind of come up almost like pillars to the side of the entryway that make up its jawbone. Like you would have to step over the jaw and the tusks to get through the archway. And there's a little flash, and I think you notice something else. A pulse coming from your bag.
Interesting.
It's
Presumably
like,
from the grimoire.
it's like a slight vibration. So with that, Maurice, you're walking, and you had this kind of exciting like notion of, you know, the spiders game. You're thinking about it. You're thinking about the last time you played, and you know, all these stratagems, and it's almost as though kind of like, you know, having it in your head kind of coerced it into reality. And you see what looks to be an oak paneled kind of or similar wood fashioned parlor through which you see a game table with the spider game.
So I stop my pace to like pause and take a closer look.
Yeah, as you're kind of like walking, you kind of break off a little bit from the group and you look over. It seems to be this doorway, this oak paneled arch, or kind of like standard kind of doorway that leads into a green glade. And this glade has what appear to be these kind of like these trees, and you're looking in at the trees and you realize that they grow from the ground and they form bookshelves. They are woven together, and on them are these very nicely bound, leather bound books, different kind of tomes. You're too far to read them, and somewhere in the middle of this glade is a game table with 2 chairs opposite each other. It's very well appointed. You can't imagine the kind of magic that it would have taken to, you know, build this kind of domicile, this house secret.
Oh man, Maurice, you found my library.
Maurice takes it in for another moment or two, and then rushes to catch up.
Yeah, I
So
think
that's where they're going to serve the continental breakfast.
Continent. Oh, wrong one.
Continental? What do you think I am?
Anyway.
I'm just imagining there's just an array of atlases and get it? Continent. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, so you are continuing to follow Patrol, at which point he kind of takes you down this narrow passageway to a spiraling staircase. And he begins continuing to walk you up. You notice that there are these kind of thinly suspended ropes making up kind of a safety rail, but the steps themselves and the ropes are not suspended by anything. They are floating in air. And do you guys kind of ascend with Patrol?
I want to make sure I can see where his feet go.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think I think easily enough you understand that whatever authority, whatever control King Nine has over Patrol, it's absolute. There is no kind of like funny business as you're walking, at least not that you can see. If you want to kind of like investigate, you can make a perception roll.
Yeah, I've seen what this dude is capable of.
Yeah, let's say
that's another 5.
All right. I think
I guess I should wait for the venture, but hey.
Hey. Well, with a 5, I think you don't notice anything untoward. There's nothing kind of like that strikes you of like, oh, this guy's about to do something nasty.
I'm gonna continue operating under the assumption that he is, however, about to do something nasty. So just maintaining that.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, so you guys you're still kind of like remaining cautious. Everybody's moving up. You get to the top of this passageway, and what it does is it tends to has this kind of narrow, passage at the top of this spiral staircase. The spiral continues to go up like there's another floor, but at this point there is kind of like the second floor landing, and there is a very briefly narrow passage that kind of curves around, and he begins walking that way. As you kind of follow him, behind him, you kind of emerge out onto what looked to be clearly ramparts, which you guys kind of noticed on your path in. These are very almost like kind of a traditional keep. There's crenellations that kind of dot the sides of the ramparts, which are open to the air around you. And again, you guys are in this kind of liminal space that there's kind of a very kind of clear kind of membrane between you and the place you came from. But seems to be kind of like this light that is coming through. You realize that it is almost like daylight at this point, like kind of like soft, warm, like red light towards dusk, as you realize it's kind of getting on in the evening after your travels and your encounter. And as you kind of walk through, again, suspended on either side of the ramparts as you're kind of like walking down this narrow path, are a number of kind of floating torches and candles that light the way and kind of like light up the dusk around you. And then finally, you get to the other side, and there appears to be a door that goes deeper into the keep of the second floor of the keep. And he opens it, and there are several doors on either side. There are about six doors on either side of what appears to be this like wider hallway that is appointed with it's kind of like almost like Rococo meets like Mucha-esque designs that are very kind of clearly woven into the walls, and you kind of get the sense that this is meant to be more welcoming as you realize that you are in like the guest bedrooms of this keep. Do You guys, and you guys are. The troll kind of begrudgingly again kind of turns, looks to you. Your quarters. A bedroom for each, should you require it. There are other.
So convenient that they just happen to have the right amount of rooms for the right amount of guests.
This is but one floor.
Thank you, Patrol.
And he kind of, yeah, go ahead.
We'll take it from here.
He clicks his heels, like nods almost perfunctorily, and just continues to stride. It strides past you.
So that went well.
Maurice glares at all of you.
What? It did. We're all here. Everybody's safe and sound. Nobody's dead.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
Not dying is good.
It could have gone worse.
Seems like you guys were trying to piss him off.
Yes, but I don't see how that has anything to do with the fact that it
We
went well.
need his help.
We do, yes, but we're probably going to providing most of that service. I mean, after all, isn't the point that he's enemies with the person that might be our enemy? And
Well, yeah, and maybe he'll tell us, or maybe he'll tell us to go fuck ourselves.
No, he
well,
won't.
there's an old saying that I feel is apropos for right now, which is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So,
Well, my friend right now is to get some sleep. Then Maurice goes to the nearest door on the right and opens it up and says, "I'll see you guys later."
oh,
And
Maurice,
slams it.
oh.
Okay. What is everybody else doing?
Twig looks a little bit like a kicked puppy. Twig's just like,
Do you want to keep us here until morning, or whatever passes for morning in this area?
Presumably.
I don't like being kept waiting that long. We have things to do. Conspiracies to solve, places to get to, terrorists to kill. Checklist is full.
I feel like a nap might not be a terrible idea, but I'm not sleeping in that fucking room.
What's wrong with it?
It's where they put us.
Yeah, sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
Is there a balcony?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna sleep outside on the balcony.
Is Maurice's door locked?
Depends.
You hear it.
Yeah, I think every west-facing room quarters appears to have a balcony.
I'm probably gonna sleep on the balcony. It makes me feel like I'm at like my post.
Excellent.
So I'll be sleeping with one eye open.
All right. And
Kyrrie feels pretty comfortable. I mean, I think, the Rococo vibe, the nice, warm, clean sheets made of finest cotton. Is there a fireplace?
So here's the fun thing is not only is there a fireplace that, again, this candle flame that seems to be suffusing, it seems to suffuse out of the hearth without any kind of means of fuel, no like logs, no coal, anything like that. Not only that, but yeah, those sheets aren't cotton. They appear to be made of cloud.
Wow.
Yeah, it is just like this very thin layer of stratus cloud. It's very cool, no matter how how long you sleep on the pillow, how long you rest on the sheets.
The dream.
It's always cool. It is always the coolest side of the pillow.
Are you just writing like bedwear porn right now?
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
somebody who has extreme insomnia, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
What's the thread count? What's the thread count?
Yeah, exactly. The thread count is 900,000.
it's over 9,000.
No, I think you mean the thread count is cumulonimbus.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so horrible. All right. we've got an Atlas joke and a fucking cumulative
Yeah,
joke. Jesus
yeah. We're back. We're back, baby.
Okay.
Invisible Sun in 2020. Let's go.
No.
All right, so
I think Kyrrie is thrilled by this. I think she's only ever read about sheets like this. She only, God knows how much it must have cost. So really, even before sitting on the sheets, she's going to study them. And in fact, do I want to do this? That's a really, really great question. Is there anything lightly sharp nearby?
Do you study bedsheets?
Can I do a quick scan of the room for that?
Absolutely. I think there is, you know what? I think that there is kind of like...
Oh, you still have the sword here.
Yeah,
Oh,
you do.
perfect. But do I know how to use that?
Oh, yeah. It's,
Stab things with it.
there is a
Perfect.
slightly bladed side of it, so I think you should be fine.
Okay, I want to cut a small piece off of one of these sheets and
Absolutely.
take it with me for my collection
All right.
at the library.
Of things you steal?
No, of things that belong to the academy.
Giant
Sure you're not
twist.
an apostate?
My
Giant-
menagerie. When am I ever going to see cloud sheets again?
The
That you
giant,
stole?
yeah, the giant twist is that Kyrrie is an
Is your door
absolute
shut? Is your door
kleptomaniac.
shut? Did Gap see this?
Probably yes.
Amazing.
A sliver. So you'd have to really look for it to notice, not like a chunk of the quilt, but like
Are you two bunking together, or did you get in your separate rooms?
I
Yeah.
just have the door open. I
Okay,
think
okay.
like I haven't slammed the door
Gab
like
is walking
someone.
past and
Maurice.
is just like,
So you cut this kind of material, and you kind of half expect the way it moves as you are kind of handling it. You half expect this to just dissolve into cloud stuff, but it stays. It stays kind of like this almost kind of cool material, and before your eyes, the patch that you cut out reforms for the main part of the bed.
Whoa.
Yeah.
but you will always know that you're a
incredible.
thief.
I'm gonna take the bit that I took and I'm gonna kind of roll it up a little and like tie a bit of twine around it and stick it in my bag.
Excellent. Okay. Not only that, so Twig, where
I
do you
have
sleep?
one last question about
Yeah.
the bed sheet.
Uh-huh.
So if it regrows when you cut a piece of it,
Is
does
that
this mean
technically
that
infinite?
no, but yeah, but like, does this mean that the piece you cut is going to slowly start growing into its own actual bed sheet?
Am I gonna have a blanket in my bag now?
So here's the thing. Is
Like a plant clipping.
Or is it a blanket or is it a cloud cover?
Maybe I have to. Oh no.
oh no.
One chuckle.
No.
Oh.
Okay, you get a scourge.
-1 forward.
-1 until you rest it off and make it up to your GM. No, I think so I think what happens is I think what you realize is that this is kind of a form of a kindled item. So a kindled item is almost like a lot like the platonic ideal of an item. It's the platonic ideal to somebody. And
Capital T table.
yeah, exactly. And so the idea of this kindled blanket is somebody had the idea that the most ideal blanket is like sleeping on a cloud. And so
Sheet.
you have
Yes.
you have taken this sheet, this piece of it, and it has reformed kind of like behind you because it is reforming into its platonic ideal. Normally something like destructive might destroy an item like this, but you can tell that there is very powerful magic worked through the keep itself. You feel like King Nine's been at this for a long time, if not years, then decades.
Oh man, I'm thrilled to be able to do some experiments on this later. In
Yeah.
theory, from a meteorological perspective, you should be able to grow it because as long as the way that clouds form is additional moisture. So if you water it, in theory, you might be able to grow a blanket or an additional vegetable.
In theory,
And that's the weather.
and that is very much the weather. And one last word, the last word on this blanket I'm gonna say is that if you take it to a maker, you never know what'll happen.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Twig, where are you sleeping?
I will take the room next to Maurice.
Okay.
So I took the first door on the right.
Yeah.
So you took the eastward facing door. So I'll take the next eastward facing door. So that assumes that you two both have
West.
balcony.
Yeah. You know,
Uh,
one thing I will say is, as each of you kind of comes into each room, what kind of style art do you guys like? Each of you. Deco. All right. Yeah. As you kind of each of you walk in, you see
And brutalist.
Yeah, brutalist. You see there's paintings above each bed. Each of you kind of like sees this very large, like 6 by 6 foot by 6 foot mural above each bed, and the frame and the subjects seem to warp in the vein of your preferred art style. And so if each of you wants to describe for me the subject of each painting you see, you can. Or we can.
Zach,
yeah.
I don't know what my preferred art style is.
That's true.
I don't remember.
You are. Oh,
that's cool.
Well, so you're about to discover what you like.
Oh yeah. Okay. Actually, no. This is perfect. This is all right. This is exactly. Oh my god. This is so. I just completely stumbled into this. Okay. So, Twig. The painting shifts, and you see this lone child standing in front of a grove of forests. It's kind of a lot like it's this very imposing kind of impressionist, where it seems the darkness of the wood is a little bit foreboding, and it's less Baroque style. Like normally you would see this figure like lit up, but really what it is the child itself is like a swatch of color in the middle of this very kind of like the entry to this massive intimidating forest. And you see the frame, the painting seems to grow out of it. All right, Kyrrie. Actually, Kyrrie, I'm going to save you for last. Gabrielle, brutalism. I think that, yeah, you begin seeing kind of this almost Nautilus style kind of configuration of concrete blocks blossom out of the center of what appears to be a central point of light within this mural. And on following kind of the path of this Nautilus, this kind of spiral of hard right angles and concrete shapes, you see these flying creatures, and which kind of the very first thing you think of are angels. And there are on these kind of platforms moving towards the center of the light, a central figure, and one following close behind it. They're kind of thrown into sharp shadow by the central light. So they're kind of like forming silhouettes. Maurice. What does Maurice like in art?
Retro futurism.
All right. So the painting that you are looking at, it seems to be in this style of transition. It's that kind of retro futurism, like that kind of like hard neon. It's like you're looking at like half like space pulpy stuff. It looks like, you know, kind of a guy with a dome helmet, you know, his blaster pointed. It's almost like kind of like a still from Forbidden Planet, but done in pulpy style. And then it begins to shift. It seems like the painting is fighting with itself. And you notice that as you're kind of like watching it shift, it seems to get and turn into this kind of like almost neoclassical style. There are these kind of like very large Doric columns. There's this really kind of evocative like imagery, but it's kind of like still this lone kind of intrepid, it's adventurer. It's almost like there seems to be this heroic figure that is kind of struggling in the middle between like what looks to be almost like a Nemean lion in between the neoclassical style and then what appears to be just like a giant betentacled beast. That's the other thing you notice about the Nemean lion as well. It seems to have all these kind of stalks and scales and almost like it's almost like a chimera where you see they have like this scaled serpentine tail, but instead it's like the scales seem to be all over these multiple limbs of the lion, and it's very disconcerting to watch. It's like hard to watch. Finally, Kyrrie, you get into the room. In 6 foot by 6 foot above your bed is a giant mirror.
Ooh.
It looks at you straight in the face as you walk in. You see yourself looking back at you. And it's kind of what you get.
Can I hold my hand mirror up to this mirror?
You may.
Okay, I do so. What do I see?
You see kind of like this endless series of mirrors stretching through your hand.
A mirror is a dangerous thing, but also an instructive one and an interactive one. That's known as far back as fairy tales.
Perhaps.
Intriguing.
So do all of you settle down to sleep?
Maurice scrapes what remains of his tobacco pouch and has one final pipe smoke. Does he have a balcony on the east side?
On the east side, no, but you do have like a very nicely appointed hearth. There's a full desk, a bureau. You can just kind of sit in.
So he sits blowing smoke out of the fireplace, kind of staring at the painting, and until he retires for bed.
All right, and as you are making your way to bed, that's when you hear on your locked door.
Maurice springs up and opens the door.
There is an older man standing in front of you with what appears to be a crimson velvet smoking jacket. This kind of lightly receding hairline going kind of swept back into this neat ponytail that's kind of done up in a bun. And there is a paunch there, kind of protruding a little bit out of the smoking jacket. And under his arm is what appears to be a folded, not a folded, but kind of like a clasped wooden box. At which point he said, "I thought I would ask you to a game." And you realize with like sharp clarity, this is King 9. And that's where we're gonna take our break.
Three-dimensional chess, go!
Yeah. So guys, we're gonna take our break. We're gonna be back at it's 5:55 now. We're gonna take another 10 minutes to get situated. Y'all go take a bio break, grab something to eat. We'll be back with the rest of episode 11. And we are back. Guys, thanks so much for rejoining us for the second half of episode 11 of The Hole in the World, which is an actual play of the Invisible Sun RPG by Monty Cook Games. Speaking of Monty Cook Games, we are actually being hosted by two lovely sets of people. One, Kima22, who has been hanging out with our streams. So thanks so much, Kimma. You're really awesome. We also are being hosted right now by Monty Cook Games proper, their channel. So this is really cool. Thanks so much. We're so glad. We hope you guys really enjoy all of this story that we keep on telling you.
Are we doing it right?
Yeah. Are we? Are we, please? Well, please, senpai, notice us. So basically, last we left, you guys had major pleasantries with King Nine, who is one of the most notorious gangsters in all of Saturnine. King Nine, you are currently in his Candleflame Keep. You guys made some startling revelations about kind of the interpersonal relations and the intrafamilial relations of the people in court. And not only that, but someone has come knocking on Maurice's door, and it appears to be a less imposing, older, kind of paunchier version of King Nine himself. And we're going to pick up in media res right there. Yeah, Maurice, you have been approached by this older, portlier, kinder gentleman, kinder seeming gentleman with a box under his arm. And it's very clearly King Nine. What do you do?
Before I get a chance to say or do anything, Duncan kind of slips past my leg and starts exploratorily sniffing at King Nine.
Oh, who is this?
This is Duncan.
He reaches down to notch Duncan under the chin, and Duncan recoils.
Maurice silently thinks, "Good boy," and gets his composure, reaches down to kind of reassure Duncan, and says, stifles a yawn, says, would love to play. Please lead the way.
And he begins walking back with you, and you begin kind of recounting, not recounting, but kind of like re-going the way you came in, down that passageway. And again, you kind of go down the spiral staircases, at which point you hear, "Oh, mind your step," and begins kind of walking down, and he seems to stoop a little as he moves and walks down, and you find yourself in front of that parlor again, that kind of glade that was inside of this kind of game room. And you see that board that was previously the Spider's game board that was on the table is missing. And the two chairs are drawn closely together. And so he pulls one out. He opens the box, which it seems to contain all of the pieces that you saw before. There are these very elaborately carved wooden spider figures. They're very they're not representative. They're very symbolic, very stylized. There are these kind of dots that kind of make up the 8 eyes. There are and that you kind of begin like recognizing the pieces according to their striping and patterns, these kind of like very light patterns on the wood. And they're kind of like these little like pegs almost that you kind of line up. And you kind of notice, oh, okay, that's a brown recluse, that's the Black Widow, those are the diving bells. Okay, that's interesting. And he opens the board and he begins setting each side up, red and black. And then
Maurice begins to help and says, are we playing with all the boards? Any house rules?
Actually, I was hoping if you'd like, we could play maybe an advanced game.
Anything you wish.
And he uncovers this one kind of compartment in the box, and you see these, what look to be these black hexagons that make up the, that kind of resemble the tiles or the spaces of the board. And then he affixes them to the board, and you notice each of them seems to glow with a symbol. and you recognize this symbol. Each symbol is a representative of a weaver's aggregate. And then he puts all of them at the center of these kind of array of tiles. He presses on this white ivory hexagon into the center of the board, taps it, and you see all of the symbols seem to scatter and to randomize. They seem to light in different patterns. You see the same symbol popping up, different arrangements, and then at which point you begin seeing him set up. He kind of pulls the first board up, and it kind of duplicates in air, almost like a copy paste function. And then there are 3 boards now. And
Maurice is so tired and trying to find a second wind, and asks, where did you learn to play? I've never played with anyone who wasn't a weaver.
Well, I've had a number of guests stop by, regale me. I am a student of the world. I try to make the best of my time with those other vislae I don't know, and I was a student of the game before I found my own keep. And as he's doing this, he's kind of like very kind of almost like very nostalgically touching the top of the Black Widow piece. How long have you been a weaver?
Oh, technically, just a little over a year. I didn't find my path, as it were, until somewhat recently.
And he looks at you, and those eyes of his, they're very soft, warm, brown eyes. They are not those glimmering coals. But at the same time, you see them flash as they look at you, just like a moment, kind of like Terry, like glare. Duncan does not kind of responds in kind, like kind of like that low kind of murmur at the back of Duncan's throat.
Maurice pretends not to notice and says, when's the last time you played?
Oh, last time I had a weaver guest. I didn't play with a weaver, per se. I played with a true spider. Fellow named Rajothamos.
I've never played with a true spider.
They are very good and very patient with beginners.
This could take a while.
Yeah. As you are kind of like as soon as he says he played with a true spider, it clicks that this is a whole other level of competition.
Red or black?
I was about to ask you the same thing.
I assume you're deferring to the guest. Red.
Very well. Red goes first, and he turns the board so that the red pieces face you.
Maurice takes his first move and says, as casually as he can make it, you look a lot more relaxed than last I saw you.
Well, yes, I suppose you can't be on all of the time. You have to find moments in life to savor. I mean, that's all that we're doing after the war, isn't it? Looking for things to savor, joys to find and rediscover. And I'd like you to make an interaction roll. By the way, for all intents and purposes, if you'd like to use a rest to replenish a pool prior to using Bene, you can do that because you had access to your quarters.
Good point. So I had a 10-minute rest. I'll say I took that, and I will replenish a replenish my intellect pool.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So if you'd like to make an interaction roll, you can do that.
That is a straight 7.
Okay. So you make this interaction roll, and you realize that it's very easy to figure out. You realize that he's kind of like trying to test your mettle, kind of trying to figure out what you're about. It's not like done deceptively. It's not done like ironically. It seems very, very sincere. At least from what you can tell.
As far as my strategy in this game, I'm going for not necessarily a win, but a long, drawn-out, defensive attrition.
Excellent.
Game.
Okay. So your first opening move, he kind of responds with a very defensive move. And he kind of like, again, like he's not like, his eyes don't flash again, but he seems to be watching you. And he says, "What sort of things do you take pleasure in, Maurice?"
Nice cup of tea. A good pipe.
Oh,
Reading.
yeah. Simple pleasures for one who finds his way in the den of, let's say, someone who makes more risky investments, such as myself.
Maurice moves again. Would you consider our group to be a risky investment?
I'd like you to make an intellect roll. You can spend Bene however much you like to play the game as you're talking.
Cool. I will spend Bene. By the way, I still have a Vex in there. Or does the rest get rid of the Vex?
Rest gets rid of the Vex.
Psych. Okay, so I'll spend intellect.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a 9 + 1.
Awesome. All right. You notice an opening where you can probably draw it out a little bit longer, kind of like by going to another board. You also see potentially an aggregate tile that you could move to from the bottom board.
My goal is to drag it out, so I will not move to the aggregate tile.
Okay. And he says, "Well, investment requires analysis, an understanding, a presentation of return on investment. What do you have on offer?"
Well, as for my group, I don't know if I feel comfortable speaking for all of us. There is a lot we need, a lot we need to know, but maybe that conversation can wait. And I'll take another move. Maybe there's something else we could talk about, something else I could give you.
And he moves in kind. Again, it's also very defensive. He seems to be kind of like trying to set up pieces and kind of disseminate these spiders throughout all of the board. And the first thing he does is, as soon as he connects, as soon as he has one board, a piece on one board and a piece on the bottom board, he uses a move to connect a strand of fiber from one piece to the other to build the Weaver's Web, which you recognize as part of a time-honored stratagem for defensiveness. It's like castling in chess. And he says, "Oh, well, you are the guest. Which would you rather talk about?"
You're not a fan of Basil, are you?
I am a fan of what this little fiction can offer me. I am not a fan of the effect that he has on my daughter. He is an ephemeral thing. He will not last.
He should go back to where he belongs.
Then you agree.
And Maurice looks to steady Duncan.
Duncan's fur is kind of like a little bit is perked up. His ears are flat. And he's staring forward at King Nine.
And Maurice takes another move and says, what is it worth to you for Basil to go back where he belongs?
Oh, I would say a small favor. Unfortunately, I don't think you have any such power, being one stooped in tea and the pleasures of reading. I don't think you are offering any more permanent solutions. He will find his way back. He always does.
Has this happened before?
Yes. I nearly killed him, you realize. My daughter. It seemed too convenient that she would be saved by an outsider, let alone a fictional creation.
So he's come and gone before. Why does he keep coming back?
Hard to say. Something he wants to find out. He is asking for a favor. Wants to find his creator.
I alone might not be able to do this, but my friends and I are quite resourceful. And Maurice makes another move.
I'd like you to make another intellect roll. Either, actually, you can do intellect if you would like to play the game, or you can make interaction if you would like to read him.
I'll do interaction. I'll spend a Bene.
Okay. It's going to get progressively harder. So let's start with 7.
Got 2 on the die, 3 total.
Okay. So 2, 3 total. It's not like a outright failure, but it's kind of like a mixed success. He seems to be very carefully speaking. He doesn't seem to, he's kind of like letting you notice this much, which is he's kind of like unspooling the rope. He's kind of letting you do what you want to do with it. And that's when he moves another piece to the 3rd board. What do you do?
Study the board for a bit.
Make an intellect roll.
It's 1.
It's hard because you are in... Actually, you know what? On a 1, I'm going to pull a card and see how this goes. Elusive sleep. Futility, worry, stress, and awareness. The richest noble cannot buy sleep. The strongest among us cannot compel its submission. Even the wisest person might lose a night's rest to anxiety. Still, when we're awake, we are aware, and that awareness can be crucial. Sleep can be difficult prey for even the most skilled hunter when it wishes to be. And I think that with that 1, you begin to feel a little drowsy, and you see the curve of a smile play on King Nine's lips. And I think that maybe it's just how much activity you've had. Maybe it was all the alcohol from the secret bar. Your eyes begin to droop. And that's when you feel a very strong grasp on your shoulder. And he says, "We've only just begun. Don't you agree?"
And he kind of wipes the sleep from his face. Says, of course, and boldly makes a move.
I would like to implement a GM shift. There is something about the tone in his voice. We've only just begun. We've only just begun. We've only... There's an echo to it in your mind's eye. And you have access to your expansive endeavor now, as you recall something. You recall the need to soldier forth, because sleep is elusive. It will not serve you in this moment. And as you get your second win, we're going to cut. Kyrrie, sleep is indeed elusive for you. The mirror seems to peer down from over your bed. What are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about the last time I saw something like this. And the last time I saw something like this was in a dream. And it was in a dream just prior to meeting the dream of Vislae. Mirrors on mirrors on mirrors. And I'm thinking about how then I didn't question that I was in reality, and yet I was so easily pulled from that dream and pulled to the blue, being proven completely wrong, even though I was certain that I was in my bedchamber. I was certain that my work on the Metal X engine was proceeding apace and that there was something to uncover. And it leads me to think again of that injunction, the help them, help them, help them, that wrote itself across the lines of my engine. And I think again of how mirrors are both revelatory and dangerous artifacts, not only here in Satyrine, where they can quite literally attack you, but what they threaten to reveal if you look too deep into them. And so I'm gonna climb up on the bed and perch on the mirror, or perch besides the mirror on the bed. I'm just gonna touch it.
You feel a flat surface. Actually, let's pull a card. That seems appropriate. Oh my.
Didn't like that.
Assassin, the adept of mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone. Finesse,
Guess who that is?
stealth, betrayal, finality. Subtlety is the assassin's greatest tool. Anyone can kill, but he does it so deftly and so quickly that even the victim doesn't realize they're dead until the assassin is long gone. He often poses as someone harmless or even friendly because betrayal is subtlety's closest sibling. All right. So, I think what happens, something unexpected turns deadly, is interesting. Okay. You are touching the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And you see movement in the background, in kind of like this darkness lit by the glow of the hearth. And you expect it to run if you turn your eyes or your head, but it just seems to stay in the background. What do you do?
Oh, this is too perfect. I'm going to cast Mirrored Flesh of the Glass Emperor.
Okay.
What this does is a level 3 spell. My flesh itself becomes mirrored. My ability to resist spells gains +1.
I love that. Okay. And there's something about this spell as you cast it. Your flesh begins to harden and begins to become pearlescent and then reflective. And I think what happens is you are perfectly smoothly shaped by this mirrored glass, as though by a glass blower. And you look in the mirror and your flesh is mirrored. Your eyes are very much yours. And that is when the shape behind you in the mirror speaks. Ah, you know what you are. You know, don't you? You beautiful weapon. There is no mouth. There is no movement. There is just the susurrusing whisper coming from the shape in the background in the mirror. What do you do?
Do I still have a mouth, or is it planed over in mirror?
It is just your flesh normally. It's your flesh with mirrored qualities to it. It's not planed,
Okay.
It's not changed over.
Who are you? What do you mean by weapon?
You are what you are, half formed. We can make you whole. You carry with her your sigil, our sigil. You belong to us. You just do not know it.
But who is us?
The rightful rulers of this world. The beautiful things that look out at you. The mirrors. We see them. These vislae. These humans. And how soft and weak they are. A poor reflection of us. And one day, we will march through, and you could be a part of our vanguard. If you choose.
But how do I know of what vanguard I would be a part if you will not speak your name?
Our names are the breaking of glass, the tinkling of glasses. To ask us our name is not to understand. We are but shards of this reality, full realizations in ours, and we will bring that apotheosis, that truth that's so hard for them to look at, into the actuality. Won't you join us? Remember your purpose. Weapon.
And you say I belong to you. I don't remember belonging to anyone.
I'd like you to make an interaction roll.
9.
Okay. It is something about this tone. You realize that oftentimes when mirrors reflect upon us, we tend to find what we want in the mirrors. Sometimes we're revolted by what we find in the mirrors. It kind of depends on our outlook. And it seems like this thing it's trying to give you what it thinks you want. With a 9, you understand that.
This is what you think I want.
What is it?
To be a weapon. I've devoted my life to learning, to knowledge.
You are a weapon. But what you want? A target. A purpose. A mark. We can give that to you.
How do I contact you? Or are you always there?
We're always here. In the cracks of a broken mirror. In the cracks of your heart. We wait.
Kyrrie turns around.
There is nothing there. And that is when you see, poking out of your bag, I think the flap has kind of flown open. Not flown open, but just kind of has opened. And there is this kind of pulsing light coming from the bag. Almost like a rhythmic, periodic glow. And when do you turn back to the mirror? That shape is gone.
I reach for the bag.
The locks on the grimoire are softly pulsing in time, one after another in sequence around a central crest.
I touch the locks.
The locks, it's clear that you're not trying to open it, so its defense mechanism doesn't kick in. But as you touch it, it seems to it's almost like the way a planchette on a Ouija board might softly pull your hands. The book seems to be pulling your hands like a diviner rod towards the exit of your room. What do you do?
I follow it.
All right. So you begin making your way down those stairs. And you it is pulling you back towards that kind of like court, towards where you came from. And if you'd like, I'd like you to make a stealth roll.
Yeah, because point of order, our rooms are next to each other.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like you to make a stealth roll depending on how this goes. You can see interesting stuff.
I believe geographically I'm across from Kyrrie's room.
Okay. So
Right.
I'm gonna make this opposed. I'm gonna have Gav and Twig, I want you guys to roll perception. Kyrrie, I want you to roll stealth. So movement. And
the venture is...
It's opposed, so we're trying to beat her stuff.
Got it.
right.
Yeah.
And you can choose, both of you guys can choose to use Bene normally.
Definitely did.
Yeah, I think I might also.
I don't think Twig knows they're trying to do anything.
Well, I had Gab being like, I sleep with one eye open and I'm going to be up on the balcony. So, like, she's definitely up.
Yeah. Kyrrie, how'd you do?
All right, haven't rolled yet.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh no. What'd you get?
0.
Ooh, I rolled an 8.
Awesome. All right.
I rolled a 1.
I think.
Well,
Oh my.
technically 1 with a Benny, but you know,
Okay.
0.
So I think that you step out of the room, and I think that you are just in this kind of miasma of thought as you're kind of like overwhelmed by what's been going on. And I think your skirt, you forgot to put on like shoes or something and I think that like the skirt of either your dress or like a nightgown, whatever you're kind of deciding to wear to bed, you kind of trip on it a little bit. And Gav, you start and you hear the noise. And Twig, I think you hear something outside your room. What do you guys do?
I'm gonna have to move the crap out of the way that I've barricaded my door with.
Definitely stepping outside with my rifle's still on me, but I mean it's coming from the direction of like one of us, so I'm not thinking it's something else until I see how weird Kyrrie looks in the hallway.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like Kyrrie, what does it look like when you're kind of like you step out of the room?
Well, I mean, I hadn't prepared to go to sleep or anything at the point that all this is happening. So I'm still in like this 1930s floor-length gown with like puff peak shoulders and like a bit of a train on it, actually. It's been scuffed up from the fight, so I mean, it's not in pristine condition, but it almost looks like something out of a Victorian novel, like very gothic. Most likely for light, I've got a flame in my hand, something to guide my way. So it almost evokes like those paintings where you have like a woman in a long dress with long hair holding a single candle and looking out into the dark. And in the dark, we know not what is there, but we follow the woman's eyes to only guess at what might be out there. And that's sort of what you see, with the exception of the fact that she has light in one hand, magic light, and in the other, Celeste's grimoire, holding it forward as though we're leading her.
And the grimoire, guys, is very apparently glowing. It's
Kyrrie,
I don't respond.
You don't responding to me. Okay.
I don't hear.
Yeah, I Gav is moving like forward. So yeah, I've seen enough magic now at this point. I'm gonna go for the shake.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just gonna like try to grab you by the shoulders.
While you're doing that, you hear the sound of like an end table or a chair, whatever I can find to jam into the door just gets pulled aside, and Twig just pops out with just bandage and shitty cut off t-shirt and
cool. You definitely see Gav just shaking
Kyrrie, and Twig's just like, what the fuck is going on?
Snap out of it.
All right. Yeah, Kyrrie, I think you do start.
Okay.
Yeah.
I turn my head very slowly to Gav, and it's almost like you look into her eyes and her eyes just look haunted.
Yeah,
for a second and a half.
Did you drop the mirror spell?
No.
Yeah, her flesh is completely mirrored. You are looking back at you look at her and you see yourself.
Victorian mirrored glowing girl.
Good, love it.
Does it cover the dress too, or is it just your flesh?
It's just
my flesh, so the dress is normal.
Yeah.
Hey, are you doing spell work in your sleep? Come on, snap out of it. I'm like gonna like backhand you just a bit. not hard, but just like
yeah.
Ting ting ting.
Yeah. It grazes the back of your knuckles, but like because it's flesh, it's kind of like curved. So
does it hurt?
Oh, I don't think it hurts. I think
it's not hard. It just says it's like light taps just with my knuckles.
Yeah.
I'd like to step into the room that Kyrrie just came from.
Yeah.
Is there anything in her room that would make me suspicious, alarmed, uncomfortable, scared?
As you step
all in one breath.
That's a pretty large umbrella. As you step in, you watch as the plane of the mirror shifts to the painting of the forest that is in your room. And you see a bit of shiny reflection, but that's it.
Well, that's deeply uncomfortable. All right, I'll shut the door and step out.
Kyrrie's looking at Gav, and this haunted look in her eyes is sort of starting to melt a little bit, like she's slowly coming back to herself, and almost like waking from a dream where you have a few minutes where the second you wake up, you have to remind yourself where you are, who you are, when you are. it's almost like a rebooting in her mind. And I think suddenly that happens. You just see almost like a light pop up within her eyes, and she looks at you and goes, Gav, there's something down there.
Down there?
Down there, in the manor. The grimoire is telling me that there's something down there.
The grimoire is now speaking to you here in this place. Okay.
It's hard to explain. It's not words. It's more like a pulse, like a homing beacon.
All right. Okay. Perhaps you being under its... Okay, I'm going to be real with you. It looked like it was possessing you when you put it like that, as if it was going to drag you down there by yourself. So forgive me if I don't take that as something good. Perhaps we bring this up with everybody and we can see precisely what it is it's trying to lead you to, rather than you wandering off there in the trance on your own.
I have a sense, and again, Kyrrie looks a little like she's been frightened, but that she doesn't know exactly what she's been frightened by. And she says, I was walking past this arch earlier down there, and it was like King Nine's throne. It was made of bone, and on the top of it, there sat this skull. And it was a mammalian skull with one eye and horns, like no creature I've ever seen or read about anywhere. But when I walked past that arch, I saw a glint of something, and then the book pulsed in my bag, just like it did in my room just now.
So we should go and try to see if maybe King Nine will explain what the creature is.
He might not let us near it if it's an artifact of power. Remember, he's a goetic, a powerful one at that.
I realize that, but I'm inclined to trust none of these things as far as I can throw them, which is not very far. So we're dealing with a book that is possessing you to go down there to get check out the very powerful creature.
Also,
does none of this worry you at all, that you were just possessed by this grimoire?
Why are you shiny?
I thought I saw something behind me, and so I protected myself. I can't explain it, but I don't think the book means ill.
Are you sure about that?
I think
it was robbing you of your own abilities to do anything. You were about to walk right out of here. If I hadn't seen you, you would have gone.
I think the book was leading me to information, and maybe I'm just predisposed to trust books, but honestly, I think the book wants to help. There is something to be afraid of, but I don't think it's this grimoire.
Well, Gav shoulders her rifle, taking it in stride a little bit there, just goes, you say the book wants to help? There's something downstairs? I'm awake, Twig's awake. Let's go break some rules.
I'm gonna try the door to Maurice's room, because this sounds fun.
No answer.
I'm tired of waiting.
Does the door open, or is it still locked?
You didn't lock it behind you, did you?
I did not.
Okay.
I will open the door to the room.
Okay. Again, that painting shifts.
God, that's fucking weird.
Twig, I am surprised that you would not take the opportunity to do some mischief while Maurice was sleeping.
But we are now.
I mean, I've got other mischief in the works. There's a mischief queue.
And right now, this book is at the front.
Hashtag apostate life. All right.
Look, what's the worst that could happen? We're going to go check out an old skull with a book that's telling us where to go. It's not like we're stealing anything. We're just looking.
feel like
we haven't
Wait.
set anything on fire yet, so I consider
So
it.
you opened the door to Maurice's room?
Yeah, I opened the door to Maurice's room. Why? What did you do?
Oh, damn it.
I'm not in there.
Yeah, so I'm like, so Twig opens the door, and the painting changes back into the painting that's been following me, creeping on me, whatever. And I'm going to look around, check under the bed because that's where I sleep, but that's just me. And then be like, Twig turns and just goes, Maurice isn't in here.
It smells very strongly of Maurice's tobacco. That's
What?
it.
He was in here. Tobacco.
Then where would he have gone?
I feel like at this point, a little bit of color is kind of starting to come back into Kyrrie's face. And well, I mean, as much as can to a mirror, like a little bit of a
Yeah, it's
just a little bit of a
rose.
shine.
It's rose tinted glass.
But she sort of looks into Maurice's room and it's like, where could he have gone? Why wouldn't he have? Why would he have left
everyone
us here?
stay here and sleep in the quarters so we don't offend the host. Oh yes, and like Gav is like already walking out of the way down the hallway out the door, gesticulating wildly. Yes, so we won't get in any trouble. She opens up the door leading out from the sleeping quarters and is like slowly gesturing for everybody to like come on out, being like, yeah, just being good guests. Anyway,
He's like, wait, you don't even know where you're going.
you do.
We're looking-
Come on.
I thought we were looking for the ice machine, but
That's a good thing that we can say to the guards when they inevitably find us.
Excellent. Okay. You guys begin following, and the book is pulling you back to where you came. And, essentially you're following the spiral staircase down. I would like you guys to make another stealth roll for me.
Yeah.
Oh, let's hope
Alright,
this one
I'll
goes
use
better
it.
than before. Although probably good for me that,
what's our?
went poorly.
I will use a bene for this.
Excellent.
What is that movement?
Yeah, it's movement. We're gonna. I'm just gonna. I want to take. I want to hear what you guys roll. That's all.
7.
6.
I also have a stealth. I have a stealth.
Nice. Add
Robes for life.
that. Add that bonus.
That's 8 plus 2.
Nice.
Hey.
Okay. Yeah, I think you guys. You guys kind of walk the halls without incident. I think part of it is because you just kind of realize that anybody that would be creeping around, like a lot of people would not normally be stupid enough to creep around the halls of King 9. But that's
you guys.
Where I come from, we just call that chutzpah.
yeah.
Hashtag apostate life.
Hashtag. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. Actually, what ends up happening is you are walking down the stairs, and on one side is a shut door to what you guys remember kind of like walking past had like a lot of greenery coming out of it. And I think that as you're kind of like walking past, you guys see this giant skull. And the skull, the tusks that make up the banners, the pillars. And as you guys are moving closer, that book is pulling you, Kyrrie, much harder. And you are at the entrance of this room, and as you look into it, you seem to see this kind of like shining glass, like peering back out of you, like the glow is kind of catching the reflection. Do you guys go inside?
Wait.
Since Kyrie's the only one that can feel if we're warm, hot, or like cold here, I think Gav's just gonna be like, so there's the thing, now what?
Yeah,
You're muted.
again, that it's pulling you literally into the mouth of this doorway. This kind of like giant mammalian mouth is kind of like ostentatious, but it's like an actual doorway into a larger room, and you're being pulled towards it by the book. What do you do?
Kyrrie sort of struggles a little against the renewed pull that is beckoning them in, and she kind of looks at Gav and at Twig and goes, "This is clearly the right place. I mean, the book wants us to go closer. It's getting stronger. The pull."
Is it saying anything?
No. Well, I have to cast a spell for it to actually speak. But the pulse is getting stronger, and it wants us to approach. Do you guys think we should?
Zach, point of order. Is this doorway the same as the one that had the greenery coming out of it?
No, it is different. It is that the green room is across, and it has a shut door, a shut oak panel door between you and the green room.
They didn't give you any indication about why they wanted you to come down here. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, it's just a pull. If I had to make a hypothesis, it's possible Zaleska has encountered this and wrote about it. The magics that are in this grimoire while locked away, I mean, are the rarest magics out there. They're magics no one living knows about. And yet, here we find something the grimoire seems to recognize in the Manor of King Nine.
Do we know how old King Nine is?
No. You do know, Gabrielle, that he has been a figure in the underworld since the war. That does not tell you much.
Do we know how long it's been since people can't remember the war?
If we can't remember, how can we remember?
Exactly.
That fucks with time really hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is no memory.
What calendar do we use? What is wrong with you
It's
people?
especially
The
going to fuck
surreal
us
calendar.
up because none of our characters are gaining any new memories from our lives beforehand.
Except for me and
No, I mean how normal vislae remembering their
yeah, you mean where
not
it just
random
comes back.
flashbacks.
Yeah, we're going through it in the
I have
worst
no
way
sense
possible.
of time whatsoever.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of kind of waking up in the morning and being oh, okay, it's a new day. And meanwhile, we're just kind of going oh, and then stubbing our toes on memories.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna
go through the door.
I'm opening the other door.
Which one? The glade?
Quick, what are you doing?
There might be something in there.
We're already going to get in trouble for going in this door. Oh, it doesn't matter.
The book wants us to go here, Twig.
Ice machine.
Oh, you really wanted an ice machine.
I mean, a little.
Okay, so, Twig, you're going to open the door.
No. Oh.
Yeah, wait, hang on.
Actually, you know what? Wait. How about this? I'd like you to make a perception roll, Twig.
Oh, God. Okay, I need to re-roll that. That's the problem with rolling on the keyboard is that there are
Why are you
cracks
rolling
in
on
it.
the keyboard?
Because you can't see it, or you can kind of see it, but this room is very messy.
Right.
Oh, sweet. That is a 9.
Okay. Yeah, so as you are moving towards the door, you are hearing Maurice talking to somebody, and the timbre of the voice is very familiar. You just, it's a hard place to place it, but it sounds like an older gentleman with a very deep timbre.
Don't wake Dad.
So I'm just gonna be I hear Maurice in there, or I hear Maurice in there.
And Gav's gonna come over and press your ear up against the crack in the door and try to make out what's going on.
Okay, roll. You know what? Let's cut back. Maurice.
The kids are eavesdropping.
Yeah, so Maurice, you have been playing for some time. You seem to be... You don't know where this energy is coming from. You seem to be reinvigorated.
He's going to switch tacks.
Okay.
He asks King Nine if our presence here is, are we here as a favor to Basil, or are we here on our own favor yet to be discussed?
Well, can't it be both? I mean, you did help save my daughter. Seems
Sure we did.
convenient.
Yeah, no, I'll take that. Yeah, we did.
But it's interesting to me. Basil has a particular interest in your group. He asked a favor of me. In fact, I could call him if you'd like and perform that favor now.
I mean, whatever you prefer. We could finish this game first, and Maurice takes another move.
All right. Are you playing aggressively, defensively? What are you doing?
I'm going to start playing aggressively now.
Make an intellect roll.
So I'm going to boost this with, since I can do my expansive endeavor now, I'm going to spend 3 bene on this.
Excellent.
That's a 5 on the dice, 8 total.
All right. Yeah, I think as you move aggressively, you pick up a piece. And this one is, trying to think of something. Yeah, this is not, I think what you do is, what piece are you moving?
The trapdoor spider.
Okay. So the funny thing is, as you kind of, you scuttle up, the trapdoor piece kind of like scuttles, but what it does is it's the wooden piece kind of slides up one of the threads, leading to a top board on which one of his diving bells is placed, and you take the piece. And King 9 looks at you and says, "Oh, very interesting strategy. You've changed tacks, I can't help but notice."
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
I have no doubt. And
so, what did Basil tell you about us anyway? I mean, from what I can tell, you think I'm a harmless, tea-sipping, pipe-smoking simpleton. What interest do you have in me? And I take another move.
All right. Would you like to use interaction or intellect?
Intellect. I'll burn 1.
Okay.
9.
9 total?
Plus 1.
Okay, so 10. Okay, you see an opportunity. You move past the diving bell that you took, or like that thread, and you move up and you see an aggregate. You see a tile. You place it on it.
Sure.
The aggregate that you choose. Actually, you know what? Let's pull a card. That'll tell us what aggregate.
So are there actually rules to this game? Or are you just really good, both really good at improv? Because I honestly can't tell.
You'll never know. The unknowable...
I was going to ask the same exact thing.
Like, I'm just like...
I'm just reading off this. It's just all the rules how to play.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, that seems like a lie.
The unknowable truth which accentuates indigo and diminishes gray.
Oh, God.
Secrets, ravens, books and flame. Truth searching futility. The raven stands with watch over the unknown. As we strive for understanding, the closer we get to the truth, the farther away it becomes. We know this to be true, but only after we've made the journey. The truth we learn is that we cannot actually know the truth. At the very heart of the Secrets family, the unknowable truth is the ultimate secret, the secret that cannot be, by its very nature, learned, but still we try anyway. It is futile, and yet it is productive. Even when you climb an infinite mountain, you are still moving forward. All right, I am going to use a game. I'm going to use a GM shift. The PC learns the truth about something, but it probably raises more questions. You don't believe that you are a simpleton. I know, and you know, that you and your companions are more than that. In fact, well, I think you could be quite useful to my organization. Of that much I know. Take a joy as you realize I think that you're starting to feel like coming into your own. You're starting to feel like a rhythm to this game. You are starting to kind of, surge forward with this knowledge. What do you do?
I'll say, well, yeah, we're many things. We can be useful to you, but right now we're also targets. And right now we need information. And perhaps when we're all together, we can put everything on the table.
What information do you require? He is licking his lips, watching you.
And I'm going to take another move.
Mm-hmm.
Spend an intellect. There's a 4 + 1 is 5.
As you make the move, you take a look at the rest of the board because you've moved. Oh, that's right, the aggregate.
Oh yeah.
Duh. It's the woods. The woods. Use that aggregate to your, basically, as you tap on the tile, this kind of surge of energy fills like the space, and it seems to kind of like the sparkle upwards, and you get to choose an environmental effect on the board. What do you use the aggregate for?
Fog.
Excellent. So normally, if you rolled a 5, you would have seen kind of what was happening, and the opponent would have kind of taken the opportunity, but the fog coats the board. And you realize that you probably narrowly, as you see King 9 moving very quickly after each one of your moves, you realize that you probably missed a disaster.
Okay.
And I think the question then again was, what is it you wish to know?
Who wants to kill Twig?
You know that as well as I know that. Basil gave me a little bit of information about you. You seem to have caught the interest of one of my rivals, Jiren the Devoured. Your presence here makes it very convenient for me to take 2 moves with one piece. I would like to move against Jiren. I would like to remove this thorn that Basil is in my side. And his eyes flash again, but you realize that they're not flashing with like knowledge of you. You see the smoldering coals reform, and this is another truth you realize, is that the illusion of King 9, of the rippling body, the candle flames surging off of them, the smoldering coals, that is real. What's illusory is this paunchy old man playing a game with you.
Maurice stifles a shiver and tries to make it light. Oh, Jiren, what did he make the big score that you couldn't?
You are so presumptuous. I have all the scores. I'm protecting my territory.
And he's another mob boss to you? The Devoured?
Yes. He flaunts his survival in the face of all who would take advantage, all who would oppose his endeavors. A thief. Nothing more than a thief stealing ideas, stealing secrets. Those secrets belong to me.
How many secrets has he stolen?
That is for me to know.
But he got you.
And the coals flash. Gabrielle, you hear all of this.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
I assume that means I also hear all of this?
Yes. I'm assuming both of you have your ears pressed to the door.
Like
Yeah,
fucking
you bet. Getting that info.
rambunctious children.
So here's the
Kyrrie
thing.
does not.
This is what I wanted.
Here's the thing. Both of your ears are pressed to the door. Kyrrie, what are you doing?
Kyrrie is
Shit.
being pulled towards the gate by the grimoire.
You walk into this room, and it's very clear that what it is a trophy room.
Hmm.
You are seeing in these flashing kind of glass around each artifact little spells of warding, of protection and binding. As you walk past one particularly large case, a face throws itself at the glass and just recoils off of it. Angry, anguish, fury, pushing these kind of spectral hands against the glass and thumping against them, not making a noise. The screams mute. You turn, you see all of these other artifacts, immeasurably wealthy, immeasurable in power. There are skulls of defeated enemies. There are piecemeal armors. There are the wings torn from angels. You see all of these things. They barely register as you see off in the corner a glowing, effulging circle of light that is pulsing in time with the book.
Kyrrie, of course, starts, as soon as she sees this face fly at her, her eyes are spinning around the room from trophy to trophy, to broken thing, to other broken thing, to dead creature, to bones, to dust, to things that were once alive and now have been broken, sundered, cloven in half. And there's a horror in it. And it's just like a horror that builds up from her very core at what this is to have so much that was alive just here gathering dust. And it's with that horror, I think, that she allows the book to pull her towards that glowing light, allows Zaleska's grimoire to continue to lead her towards that little winking thing.
And as you are beginning to, you recoil, and as you're being pulled, your grip on the book, it kind of tightens reflexively as you hear Avelia's voice say, "I was wondering when one of you would come." And she seems to be leaning against the wall. And she's looking at you, and she's looking at the grimoire. And she says, "As soon as it started doing that, I knew it was one of you. I come here sometimes. I come to see my father's works. And this has never happened. Not once. What is your business with that book?"
I am its guardian, its sworn protector.
And she's moving towards the light as it pulses. And she doesn't look back at you. Are you following?
Yes, but I speak as I do, and I say, tell me what all of this is about. What is that light? Why is it connected to the grimoire?
I don't know. It's another secret of my father's. You see all of this? This is his legacy. This is
These
what
broken things?
people that tried to oppose him. The people he broke. The things he broke. The secrets that he stole. These are all his. So tell me what that secret is to you.
This is not a secret. It is knowledge. And you would do well to know the difference between those two things. A secret is a kind of knowledge, but it's a kind of knowledge that is only dangerous when there is a power dynamic at play. And that's what your father lives on, doesn't he, Avelia? He takes the upper hand in those power games. And that's why secrets are so dangerous to people in his hands. I will not let this grimoire be used in a political game. You should know that right now.
And she studies you. And she thinks. And she says, reaching a hand through the glass to pull this pulsating light without issue, the glass forms around her hand an aperture, and she pulls out this pulsing, what you realize is a circular medallion. And you notice that the symbol emblazoned on it is very much the symbol of the invisible sun. It seems to be shining with this kind of pearlescent sheen under this effulging light. And she says, well, then I suppose that you're very lucky that I don't like my father right now. And she hands you the medallion. The medallion, as you move to take it, it flies from her hand and snaps and twists and locks into the center of the book. And all of these symbols of these locks light up with the symbols of all of the other suns.
It's a fucking key.
Wow. Do the locks remain closed?
Say that again?
Do the locks remain closed?
They all remain closed, but they are pulsing rhythmically in time together. And she looks down at the book, and she looks at all the symbols, and she looks back up at you, and she says, I think you have a number of trips to make.
So it would appear.
And we cut back to Maurice. You have called out King 9.
And in that moment, I'm going to take a move and spend an intellect.
All right.
Oof. It's a 1 on the die. 2 total.
And that is when you realize the fog, I think what happens is it abates. And well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pull another card. Because that is interesting to me right now. All right. The incriminating skull it is again. Secrets, ravens, books, and flame. Accentuates gold and magic and de-accentuates silver. Disaster, discovery, evidence, connections, friends, and family. Okay. I think we're going to... Okay. All right. Something that should have remained hidden comes to light. And I think that as the fog clears on the board, you see that all of these moves that he's been taking while you've played aggressively and played the long game and shift tax, he has arrayed all of the pieces in almost like a spiral pattern surrounding yours. And I know, Duncan. It's a rough position to be in. And at which point, yeah, Duncan whines, and King 9 takes your Black Widow. And he says, this game
is one you're going to be playing for the rest of your life, Weaver. You have far more import than you know. But you, in all of your daring and audacity, never forget your place in the actuality.
And Maurice clenches his jaw a bit and says, "You're not forever."
Nothing is forever. but I am for a long time to come.
And he reaches out, and before you even notice it, he's grabbed a lock of your hair.
Ah!
And, like, just cut it with a set of claws. It just surprises the hell out of you. And then he says,
Now, I just need one more from your apostate friend, and the terms of my favor are done. But if you wish to do business, I will gladly see you again in the morning.
and he begins to, what you realize is after he's taken your widow, it kind of, I think that he says, he leaves the game as it is. You have roughly the same number of pieces, but taking your widow is a lot like taking your queen in chess. And he leaves it out, and he begins to rise from the chair. Gabrielle, Twig, you hear the motion behind the door.
Yep, I'm a trained soldier. I know somebody's moving. We're going.
Yep.
I think I grab like Twig's arm and then I go, fuck.
Yeah, Kyrrie is.
She's gone.
And at which point, Avelia.
You know what? I'm gonna make a move here.
Uh-huh.
I see that door's still open, and I know Kyrrie went in it.
Mm-hmm.
Twig, you can either come with my momentum or not, but I'm running towards that room, the trophy room.
Hard,
Off
yeah.
I go. Just whoop, it's the closest exit, and we need one.
Can I say something to Avelia before the action moves its way into the room?
Yeah.
All right. I want to just kind of look her in the eye as she said this about how she doesn't like her father right now. And I say, Avelia, I've faced the dream of Vislae. I faced the guardian of the blue sun. I faced my sister. Oh, I'm not afraid of your father. The thing I've learned about people in power, heads of state, deans, Althusian laureates, people who've added some sort of piece of unique knowledge or gain to the world, is that most of all, they are looking for someone or something to challenge them. So often people fail and disappoint them because they give themselves up in the fact of that diaphanous scintillation of power before that game that they so desire has even begun. People like your father believe they hold all the cards because that is what is refracted and reflected back at them by all of those people.
Hold on. There we go. She's listening as you do this, as you tell her this.
If you do not like your father, Avelia, I will stand against him. And I'd like your support if I do. Because he will not take me. And she thinks briefly to what she saw in the mirror and what that thing said to her. And almost half whispers.
And she... Yeah, half...
I am something new.
Excellent. And she considers it. And she says, maybe one day. I will certainly take you up on your offer, but right now, King 9 reigns. And you would do well to be afraid. And she, at that point, both Gabrielle and Twig kind of run into this terrifying trophy room of broken things and secrets and things that you know you shouldn't see. What are y'all doing?
I think at first it's like running in. the name of the game is I want to make sure that King 9 and everything, like, I'm listening for outside.
Yeah, focusing behind as opposed to what's in front of us.
Yep. Okay.
One danger at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys you hear kind of like the door beginning to swing open, and that's when Avelia realizes what's going on, and she's this way, and she kind of hustles you guys all along to one side of this trophy room, and there is a painted flagstone under which is a votive candle that's floating in the air, and she takes her fingers, snaps it out, and another aperture opens, and she runs through it.
All right.
Follow.
Yeah. And you find yourselves in a room not unlike the quarters that you left, and I think we can change the music here. You realize that you are in similar guest quarters, but at the same time, it's not similar guest quarters. These are her quarters. It is opulent in its design. The paintings around, you think that they're about to change as you walk in, and they are very much just static. And they are pastoral scenes of, kind of like, I think it's Thomas Kincaid, right? Is the one who did the lone woman in the middle of the pasture, kind of reaching out. It's that. It's kind of more along those lines, just very stark, earthy colors, stark subjects in the middle of these sparse environments. And otherwise, the entire room is just set with all these opulent gilded things that seem to sparkle and seem to kind of change in the reflections of the light. And she says, "We are on the 4th floor of my father's keep. Your quarters are directly below. Patrol sleeps nearby.
Good to know.
Be very quiet." And she opens the door, and she looks at you, Kyrrie, and says, "I will always think on what you said, but you are not the first person to offer me respite. Remember that."
I will. But think on this. I seek not to offer you respite, but I hope you become something different than him.
And she nods. She points towards the exit. And yeah, what's up?
I don't really want to risk running into patrol. Is there any way we can get from one balcony to another?
Good try.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think how do you want to do that? Yeah, because she points to the door, and there's a balcony, a very nice balcony outside her room. What do you do?
How far's the jump?
Let's say you begin to look down.
More importantly, how far is the drop?
Yeah. As you look down, it's easily at least about 80 feet between you and the ground. And it's probably about 30 feet. Let's say 40 feet to your balcony.
Okay. So this is not a jump.
No. But she kind of sees your instinct, and she just says, they don't let me have any rope.
It's probably smart of
That's
them.
very dark.
Well,
This is not my first attempt at egress.
I guess we do this the old-fashioned way. Can you tell me something? Do they have any sort of alarms if I were to cast some sort of spell to aid us to get down more quietly, unseen?
Yes, but
Why am I not surprised?
I can attempt to help. If I cast my magic at the same time, they might think it's me.
No, I don't enjoy letting other people take the fall for me. We'll just go back as quietly as we came down.
I will, as GM, point out that you guys do have an object of power. Or an artifact of power. You have that moth jar.
I have
So-
that on me?
No, I
Who
do.
has that?
I have that from the radio station because that's something we
Oh.
found while you were away.
So, alternate question: how fast is that stupid blanket growing? And how fast does it grow?
Yeah,
We haven't had any water, but that's
Can-
an interesting question.
Do you produce that? Do you just show her the sheet?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So, if you can make more sheets, let's
Is there
put
water?
this. Let's put this sheet together and get this sheet going, so we can get the sheet out of
Oh.
here. I'm so sorry.
We don't
How
have
dare you.
anyone on the other side to tie it off. If that's what you're implying.
Wait, we could. I have a spell called the Perilous Leap of the Desperate.
But they were just saying that spell work will
Oh,
be
that's right.
noticed.
It'll trigger.
That's why I asked. 'cause
But
I have
also the
something
most
else, too,
relevant
that I could
spell
use.
ever.
Yes.
The shout outs
Perilous
to-
Leap of the Desperate.
Yeah, like, okay.
What do you guys want to do?
I
While
guess
you,
the question is, how would we tie it to anything on the
That's what I
other
just
side?
said.
what?
Cool.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you think about it? We're going to cut back to Maurice. Okay. So the door opens. Maurice, you are beginning to walk out of this kind of gladed parlor.
I'll say when King Nine gets up from the table, Reese will sit and study it for a moment. Not willing to. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a checkmate. And Maurice studies the board as long as King Nine will allow him to stay in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you make a intellect roll? Why don't you add 1 to your venture? I think you should have been doing this all along because you are a weaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a 2 on the die and
Okay.
3 total.
So 3 total. You look in a pretty bad spot, my friend. You are looking at this. You yelled at this guy. He's kind of dangerous and deadly. He's wreathed in candle flame. You know, what was it? You're just like, did I really say these things?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Yeah, and I think what ends up happening is I think you're kind of like catching your breath. Like this kind of like moment, this endeavor, this expansive endeavor is kind of like the exhaustion is catching back up with you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you slept on it and took another look, you'd fare better.
I absolutely. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
So Maurice will kind of push himself out of the chair and.
Yeah. By the way, that paunchy old man, as you are walking out the door, he's gone. Instead is the full King Nine, and King Nine looks at you, and then his smoldering eyes turn to another side, and you hear him say,
Ah, little fiction. Such a pleasure to see you. What appropriate timing. I have something for you.
and he produces your lock of hair, and he gives it to Basil. And Basil is standing in front of you, and he's looking apprehensive at you. And he's looking apprehensively at King Nine, and very kind of quickly just grabs the lock. His eyes do not leave either you or King Nine. And he said,
Well, our business is concluded for your first favor, but I do still owe you a boon, don't I?
and Basil thinks and says, well, we can discuss this tomorrow then. I believe We can discuss it later.
Your choice, little fiction. I cannot wait to hear what you have in mind. Maurice.
And he leaves for the eastern wing of this first floor, leaving you with Basil.
So does King Nine have to give you the hair, or could I just give you twigs myself?
I had to have you someplace where you couldn't escape. I did want to help you, I still do, but I need to know.
Know what?
And he takes the hair in his hand, and he takes what looks to be like a little vial of something, and he pours it in to his palm with the hair, and takes what looks to be a match made of some kind of special kind of engraved matchstick. There are these tiny, minute designs on it, and it's green in color. He strikes it, drops it into his palm, inhales this giant green cloud of puffy smoke that kind of comes into it envelops his face. And he looks at you. His eyes tend to cloud over. What are you doing, by the way? Do you let this happen?
Yeah, I'm watching with a bit of a scowl on my face.
And his eyes look to you. They are fogged and cloud over and misted. And then they clear. And there's this look of both rancor and wonder and epiphany and triumph on his face as he looks at you and says, "So I finally get to meet you, Father." And that's where we're going to end tonight's episode. So,
I knew it.
you guys had the right instinct with the last episode, so I'm just, maybe I need to not telegraph so much, maybe surprise you guys a bit. Anyway, we're gonna go over how everybody feels. Marcy, how does Gabrielle feel about today's episode?
Oh God, I led an actual scouting patrol. I feel great. That wasn't actually sarcasm. I think she started off feeling like really pissed that this is going to be another waiting game where like other people were going to talk for her. But she managed to find something to push things forward for her own sanity. So I think that's like a better place for her mentally.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and give you 1 joy and 1 acumen for also catching Kyrrie in the act of absconding to the trophy room. Hopper, how did Twig feel about tonight's episode?
I know I'm muted, so give me.
You're not muted. Do it.
That noise that you couldn't hear because it was going to be very loud. Twig is overall just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? But also shenanigans, which Twig's always down with. Like, how do you not love shenanigans? In general, though, like this definitely feels dangerous. I don't like any of the people we're around. I don't trust anybody. And I feel like I think Twig's deeply uncomfortable with the fact that a brick to the face will probably not solve any of these problems.
It's unfortunate, but I don't think so either. Take 1 despair and take 1 acumen for being part of this scouting patrol, and also managing to not piss off King Nine somehow, magically.
It's the little things.
Marissa, how does Kyrrie feel about tonight's episode?
Terrified, and at the same time deeply intrigued. I think Kyrrie is, for once, getting proof of something that she's believed for a long time about the actuality, or at least there's a shard of something out there that spoke to her, which has never happened before. And so, I think this is something that it's like a big breakthrough in something she's been studying and looking at for a long time. But at the same thing, that breakthrough is horrifying, and the implications and ramifications it has for her, the fact that thing called her a weapon when she feels that's the most inept descriptor of her that there is, terrifies something very deeply inside her. But the pursuit of scholastic inquiry is what drives her forward, and it will take, even though it might take her to dark places, she's gonna go after it. I think she also feels positive about the fact that the medallion was reconnected to the book, because it feels like, again, there's been progress with the grimoire, like something has been made whole that was broken in that room of broken things. And, I think the horror she experienced in that room was very much counteracted by the fact that she could undo just a little bit of that horror.
Nice. So do you feel like the horror was the overwhelming feeling?
I think she overcame the horror, which I think was, she proved to herself she could do that, or that there was some agency she had, even in this place that proved King 9 had taken so much from so many.
All right. Take 1 point of joy and 1 acumen for refinding the book. The medallion for the book, rather. And taking the next step. Actually, I believe that also tallies 1 acumen to your character arc as well.
It does. Yes, yeah. It does.
So add 2 total. Bill, how's Maurice doing?
Oh boy. I think there were a few moments where Maurice thought that maybe he wasn't entirely drowning. Maybe he did have some control. And then the way the game ended and the revelation at the end was gutting.
I think go ahead.
He's not having a good time.
All right. Take 1 point of despair. Take 1 acumen. And you know what? I think take another acumen for your character arc as well, as you have identified a potential touchstone of your past.
Your word, baby.
I do. Hey, man. I took them SATs. I did okay. So, guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I am very excited to be back in 2020. Thank you so much to Kima22 for hosting us on their channel. Thank you so much to Monty Cook Games for hosting us on their channel. Most importantly, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm really excited for where Hole in the World is going next. And until then, may the invisible sun shine on you all. Everybody have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.